I remember the day everything changed. It was an ordinary Saturday afternoon in late September, the kind of day where the sun shines just enough to coax the last hints of warmth from summer. I had spent the morning tinkering with my bike in the garage, the scent of fresh oil mingling with the crisp autumn air. I was gearing up for a ride, eager to clear my head and enjoy the day. Julia had been my girlfriend for 2 years, and from the moment we met at that coffee shop, everything felt right. We were inseparable, sharing everything from our favorite playlists to our dreams for the future. She was beautiful, intelligent, and funny, my perfect partner. I thought I knew her better than anyone else. As I wiped my hands on a rag, I noticed my phone vibrating on the workbench. It was a message from Julia. "Hey babe. Can't wait to see you later. Love you." I felt a familiar warmth spread through me. I quickly typed back, "Can't wait. Want to go for a ride together?" She replied with a heart emoji and a promise to join me after she finished a few errands. I smiled, feeling grateful for our plans. Little did I know that this would be one of the last moments of blissful ignorance I'd experience. Later that afternoon, I decided to head out for a quick ride while I waited. The wind whipped through my hair as I pedaled along the familiar trails. The beauty of the changing leaves surrounded me, but something nagged at the back of my mind, an uneasiness I couldn't quite shake off. It was subtle, but I brushed it off as pre-ride jitters. When I got home, the sunlight was beginning to dip below the horizon, casting a warm glow through the windows. I expected Julia to walk in any moment, full of energy and excitement. Instead, I found her sitting on the couch, phone in hand, an unusual tension in the air. "Hey. You're back early," she said, looking up with a forced smile. "Yeah, just wanted to get some fresh air," I replied, sensing something was off. "How were your errands?" "Oh, just the usual stuff," she said, her voice lacking the usual enthusiasm. I tried to shake off the feeling. After all, we all have our days. As the evening progressed, I couldn't help but notice her distracted demeanor. She was scrolling through her phone, occasionally glancing up at me, but it felt different. It was as if she was somewhere else, her mind miles away from the living room we had built together. "Everything okay?" I asked, trying to gauge her mood. "Yeah, just tired," she replied quickly, but her eyes didn't meet mine. It was a small thing, but I could tell she was hiding something. Dinner was a quiet affair, filled with the sound of utensils clinking against plates rather than the laughter and banter that usually colored our meals. I tried to lighten the mood with a joke about the ridiculousness of reality TV, but it fell flat. Julia offered a weak smile, her mind clearly elsewhere. After dinner, she excused herself to the bathroom. I leaned back on the couch, trying to shake off the feeling that something was wrong. As I absent-mindedly flipped through the channels, my phone buzzed again, this time with a notification from a social media app. Curiosity piqued, I opened it, and my heart sank. A picture had been posted by someone I recognized, a mutual friend, showing Julia laughing and smiling, arms wrapped around a guy I didn't know. My gut twisted as I noticed the caption, "Great day out with the best. #blessed. The air felt heavy, the room closing in around me. I looked back at the bathroom door, anxiety coiling in my stomach. Who was this guy? Why hadn't Julia mentioned him? I suddenly felt like a stranger in my own home, the walls echoing with unasked questions. Just then, Julia walked back in, and my heart raced. The moment felt charged, the silence between us thick enough to cut. I could feel the weight of the photo pressing down on my chest, but I didn't know how to voice my suspicions. Instead, I chose to stay quiet, to play the part of the oblivious boyfriend for just a little while longer. But in that moment, as we settled onto the couch together, I felt a shift. I thought I knew her, thought we were solid. Little did I know, the ground beneath us was about to crumble. Chapter 2, The Cracks Begin to Show. The rest of the evening dragged on in a haze. Julia was still distant, her laughter replaced by polite smiles, and I could feel the tension coiling tighter. As we settled into a movie, I kept glancing at her, trying to decipher what was going on in her mind. Each time I looked at her, I saw the flicker of something guilt, perhaps. It gnawed at me, an unwelcome intruder in what should have been a cozy night. After the credits rolled, I turned to her, searching for some sign of openness. "Hey, is everything really okay?" I asked, my voice steady but filled with concern. "Yeah, I told you. Just tired," she replied, but this time I caught the slight tremor in her voice. It was a small crack in her facade, and I felt a surge of determination to pry it open. "Are you sure it's just that? You've seemed off all day." Julia shifted in her seat, her eyes darting away. I don't know. I've got a lot on my mind," she admitted, her tone softening. "What's on your mind?" I pressed gently, sensing the opportunity to get through to her. She hesitated, biting her lip. "It's nothing. Really." But I could see the conflict in her expression, the internal battle she was waging. "Julia, you can tell me anything. You know that, right?" I said, hoping to reassure her. "Yeah, I know," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. She stood up abruptly, pacing the room. "I just need some space to think." That phrase "some space" sent a chill down my spine. It felt like a warning sign, an indication that something deeper was at play. I watched her, my heart heavy with unease as she moved around the room, her thoughts clearly miles away. When she finally sat back down, I took a deep breath. "Okay, but can we at least talk about what's bothering you? I can't help if you don't let me in." She looked at me then, her eyes glassy and unfocused. "I just feel overwhelmed, you know? Work has been crazy, and I'm just trying to figure everything out." I nodded, trying to take her words at face value, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more lurking beneath the surface. "I'm here for you, Jules. Just remember that." She gave me a weak smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. I decided to let it go for the night, hoping she'd open up when she was ready. As we settled into bed, I felt the distance between us like a chasm. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying the events of the evening in my mind. Just as I was starting to drift off, my phone buzzed again, pulling me back to reality. It was a message from the same friend who had posted the picture earlier. "Hey, did you see the pics from today? Julia was so much fun. You should have come." My heart raced as I reread the message. Why hadn't she mentioned this outing? I felt a pang of betrayal twist in my gut, a mix of anger and confusion. I wanted to respond, to ask about the guy in the photo, but I didn't want to start a confrontation that might push Julia further away. Instead, I put the phone down, closed my eyes, and tried to convince myself that I was overreacting. Maybe it was just a harmless outing. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and as I lay in the darkness, I couldn't help but feel the shadow of suspicion creeping in. The next few days passed in a blur of mundane routines, but the undercurrent of tension between us never faded. Julia continued to be elusive, lost in her own world while I struggled to bridge the gap between us. I tried to engage her in conversation, asking about her day and expressing my concerns, but each time, she deflected, avoiding eye contact and brushing off my questions. One evening, as I was scrolling through social media to distract myself, I stumbled upon another post from our friend. This time, it was a video clip of Julia and the guy from the picture, laughing and dancing at a bar. My stomach dropped. It wasn't just an outing, it was something more, and the way they interacted felt too intimate, too carefree. I could see the chemistry, the spark that I thought only existed between us. I felt sick. How had I missed the signs? I thought about our conversations, the moments we had shared, and I suddenly felt like a fool for not seeing the truth. It was like the illusion of our perfect relationship was crumbling before my eyes. That night, I lay awake, heart pounding and mind racing. I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I needed answers. As the hours crept by, I steeled myself for the conversation that was inevitable. I had to confront Julia, to uncover the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The following morning, I felt a mix of dread and determination. I needed to know if my fears were justified. When Julia finally came downstairs, her hair tousled and eyes still heavy with sleep, I took a deep breath, my resolve hardening. "Jules, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady but laced with tension. She looked up, surprise flickering across her face. "Talk about what?" I swallowed hard, the words teetering on the edge of my lips. "About you, me, and everything." I wasn't sure where to start, but I knew I couldn't back down. Her expression shifted, and I could see the apprehension creep in. Okay. It was time to face the truth, whatever it might bring. Chapter 3, The Confrontation. I watched as Julia's expression changed, her shoulders tensing. It was as if she sensed the gravity of the moment, and the air grew thick with unspoken words. I took a step closer, my heart pounding in my chest. "Look, I've seen the pictures and videos from the other day. I thought you'd tell me about it, but I can't just sit back and pretend I'm okay with it," I said, my voice firm but trembling with emotion. "Who is that guy?" Her eyes widened, and for a moment, I thought she might deny everything. But instead, she looked away, her hands fidgeting at her sides. "I didn't mean to keep anything from you," she started, her voice low. "It was just a casual hangout with friends. I didn't think it was a big deal." "Not a big deal?" I echoed, incredulity rising in my voice. "You were laughing and dancing with him like it was something more. It looked intimate." She sighed, her expression shifting to one of frustration. "It was just fun, okay? We were out celebrating someone's promotion. It wasn't meant to be anything." "Then why didn't you tell me?" I pressed, feeling the hurt wash over me. "Why didn't you mention it at all? You've been acting so distant lately. It's like you're hiding something." Julia's gaze fell to the floor. "I didn't want to upset you. I thought you'd overreact, and I didn't want to cause any drama." "Drama?" I shot back, my voice rising. "This isn't just drama. This is about trust, Jules. If you were in my shoes, wouldn't you want to know what was going on?" "I guess I thought you wouldn't care about a stupid party," she snapped back, the frustration boiling over. "It was a mistake to keep it from you, but I didn't think it would matter this much." The heat of the argument enveloped us, the air thick with tension. My heart raced as I fought to keep my composure, but the cracks in our relationship were widening. "You're right," I said, trying to calm down. "But it does matter. I care about you and what's happening in your life. It feels like you're shutting me out." "I'm not shutting you out," she insisted, her voice softening. I've been feeling overwhelmed. Work is stressful, and I thought I could handle it on my own. I didn't want to burden you." I paused, my anger giving way to understanding. "But you don't have to handle everything alone. We're a team, right? You can talk to me about anything." She looked at me then, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. "I know, but sometimes it feels easier to just keep things to myself. I didn't want to drag you into my mess." "Julia, we're in this together," I said, stepping closer. "If something is bothering you, I want to be there for you. But I can't do that if you're not honest with me." She took a deep breath, her gaze finally meeting mine. "I'm sorry. I really am. I should have told you about the party, and I should have been more open about how I've been feeling. As I watched her, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe we could salvage this. Can we start over? I asked quietly. I need you to promise me that you'll be honest with me moving forward. Julia nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. I promise. I just want things to get back to how they were. I pulled her into an embrace, relief flooding through me as I held her close. We can do this, I whispered. Just remember, you don't have to go through anything alone. But as I held her, a nagging feeling remained in the back of my mind. It was clear that there was still a wall between us, and while she had apologized, I wasn't sure if the trust could be rebuilt so easily. There was more to unravel, more to understand about what had truly happened that night. As the days passed, I tried to be patient. Julia seemed genuinely remorseful, and we slowly began to reconnect. We shared more of our thoughts, spending quiet evenings talking and cooking together. But every time her phone buzzed, I couldn't help but feel a flutter of anxiety in my chest. It was a reminder of that night, a reminder of what had almost come between us. One evening, as we lounged on the couch, I noticed her scrolling through her phone again. This time, the feeling in my gut grew stronger. I wanted to trust her, but my mind kept drifting back to that guy, the one who had danced with her so freely, the one who had elicited genuine laughter. Jules, I said, my voice cautious. Can we talk about that guy? The one from the party. She looked up, her expression shifting from surprise to apprehension. I told you it was nothing. We were just friends. Just friends. I pressed gently, hoping to coax out more. What does that mean? Did you know him before that night? She hesitated, her brow furrowing. I met him briefly through friends. We didn't talk much before that. I took a deep breath, feeling a mix of hope and fear. I just want to understand. Did anything happen between you two? Julia's eyes widened, and I could see the internal struggle playing out. No. I swear, nothing happened. We just danced and had fun. I promise it was just a night out with friends. The sincerity in her voice struck a chord within me, but a small part of me remained wary. Okay. I believe you. But can you please be open about how you feel? If something ever changes, I need you to tell me. I will, she assured me, her voice steady. I want us to be open with each other. I promise I'll do better. As I nodded, I felt a glimmer of hope return. Maybe we could get through this. But as I looked at her, I couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper still lingered beneath the surface, a lingering shadow that had yet to be fully confronted. In the back of my mind, I couldn't help but wonder if we were truly on the path to healing or if we were simply covering up the cracks that could eventually splinter our relationship apart. The truth was, I loved Julia, and I wanted to believe her, but trust was fragile, and I knew it would take time to rebuild what had been lost. Chapter 4, Unearthed Secrets. Despite the warmth that bloomed between us after that conversation, a lingering unease remained. Julia was making an effort, but each day was an exercise in balancing trust and doubt. I could feel her trying to be more present, more communicative, but every time her phone buzzed, I'd catch myself holding my breath, bracing for something I feared I might discover. One evening, as we sat together on the couch, Julia leaned against me, scrolling through her phone. The TV flickered in the background, but my focus was solely on her. I could feel the warmth radiating from her body, but the familiar knot of anxiety tightened in my stomach. Hey, can I ask you something? I said, breaking the comfortable silence. Of course, she replied, her eyes still glued to the screen. What if I reached out to that guy? You know, just to clear the air? I think it might help me understand. My voice was steady, but my heart raced at the thought of confronting the unknown. She stiffened slightly, her gaze flickering up to meet mine. I don't know if that's a good idea, she said carefully. Why not? I pressed gently, trying to gauge her reaction. If it really was nothing, then it shouldn't be a problem, right? She sighed, sitting up straight. It's just. I don't want to drag you into that. I don't want to give it more weight than it deserves. Then what are we doing? I replied, my frustration seeping through. If it's nothing, why not put it all out in the open? I need to feel secure in our relationship again. Julia chewed on her lip, her expression conflicted. I understand, but I really don't think reaching out is the answer. Can't we just focus on us right now? Maybe, I said, but my tone was laced with doubt. But I don't want to sweep anything under the rug. It doesn't feel right. She looked away, her brows furrowing as if she was weighing her words carefully. I promise you, I didn't do anything wrong. I was just caught up in the moment with friends. That's all. I felt a wave of frustration mixed with disappointment. But I need to know if there's something more there. I can't just forget about it. I wish I could make this easier for you, she said quietly, the hurt in her voice palpable. But it's complicated, and I don't want to hurt you more. I nodded slowly, but the unease lingered. I didn't want to push her too hard, but I also couldn't shake the feeling that there was something unsaid hanging between us, a weight that kept growing heavier. The following day, I made a decision. I needed answers not just from Julia but from the source itself. I reached out to our mutual friend, Tyler, who had posted the pictures. He was a good guy, and I hoped he'd provide some clarity without making things worse. Hey, Ty. Quick question, I typed, my fingers trembling slightly. Can you tell me more about that party last week? I saw some photos of Julia and that guy. I just want to understand what happened. I hit send, my heart pounding as I waited for his response. Would he be honest? Would it change how I felt about Julia? It didn't take long for him to reply. Oh, yeah. It was a blast. Julia was just being her fun self. She danced with a bunch of people, but that guy was just a friend. Nothing serious. A mixture of relief and confusion washed over me. Just a friend? You're sure? It didn't look like just friends in the pictures. Tyler sent a string of laughing emojis. Honestly, dude, it was a party. Everyone was just letting loose. Don't read too much into it. They're not dating or anything. Just friends having fun. I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe it really was nothing. But then I recalled Julia's reaction to my inquiry about the guy. She hadn't sounded as convinced. As I processed Tyler's words, another message came through. You should just ask Julia about it. She's been stressed lately, so give her some space. I know you two are close, but just don't worry too much. Thanks, man, I replied, my heart still heavy. I decided to take Tyler's advice, but the nagging doubt in my mind refused to settle. I needed to confront Julia again this time, with the information I'd gathered. That evening, as we prepared dinner together, I felt the tension building again. I could sense the weight of my thoughts as we moved around each other in the kitchen, chopping vegetables and stirring pots. Hey, can we talk again? I finally said, my voice soft but firm. Sure, she replied, her expression shifting to one of concern. I took a deep breath, bracing myself for her reaction. I talked to Tyler today. He said that night was just a bunch of friends having fun, that nothing serious happened. Julia paused, her knife stilling on the cutting board. Oh. I continued, my eyes locked on hers. But I need you to be completely honest with me. If there's anything you're not telling me, now's the time to share it. Her shoulders slumped slightly, and she looked away, biting her lip. I swear, nothing happened. But I did have a moment of doubt that night. I got caught up in the fun, and it made me question some things. Question what? I pressed, feeling a mix of concern and hope. Just, us, she admitted, her voice trembling. I think I was feeling lost, and I let myself get swept up in the moment. I didn't mean to, but it made me realize how much I value what we have. I just didn't know how to communicate that. My heart sank, but I could hear the sincerity in her words. So you're saying that night made you reconsider our relationship? That's a lot to unpack. I know, she said, tears glistening in her eyes. But I also realized that I don't want to lose you. I was scared, and I didn't know how to handle it. I stepped closer, my heart aching for her vulnerability. Julia, I need you to know that I'm here for you. But we can't rebuild if we don't share our fears. You can't shut me out. She nodded, her expression softening. I'm trying. I promise I'll do better. I just don't want to lose you. The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of our shared history. As I pulled her into a gentle embrace, I felt the walls we'd built around ourselves begin to crumble. But I knew this was only the beginning. There were still secrets lurking beneath the surface, and I needed to confront them, no matter how painful it might be. As we stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, I hoped that we could face whatever lay ahead together. But deep down, I knew that the real test of our relationship was still to come. The truth had a way of surfacing, and I was afraid of what it might reveal. Chapter 5, Unraveling Threads. The days that followed were a delicate dance of rebuilding and hesitance. Julia and I were making strides, but I still felt a weight pressing down on me, a sense that there were unresolved threads that needed to be addressed. Our conversations had grown deeper, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was still more beneath the surface. One evening, we decided to go for a walk in the nearby park, the cool autumn air filled with the scent of fallen leaves. As we strolled, I held her hand, squeezing it gently, hoping to convey the support I felt. But my mind kept drifting back to that moment of doubt she had confessed to. What had triggered that feeling? What more was she hiding? Jules, I said softly, breaking the comfortable silence. I've been thinking about what you said the other night. About feeling lost and questioning things. She looked at me, her brow furrowing. What about it? Is there something else we need to address? Something you haven't told me? My heart raced as I spoke, each word filled with both hope and fear. I need to know what's really going on in your head. Julia paused, her gaze dropping to the ground. I felt overwhelmed by everything. Sometimes I worry that I'm not good enough for you, and that made me act out in ways I didn't mean to. What do you mean? I asked, my voice gentle. You're more than enough for me. You're incredible. I know that, she said, her voice shaky. But sometimes I get caught up in comparing myself to others. It's not just about that night, it's been building for a while. I feel like I'm falling behind, and I didn't know how to communicate that to you. I squeezed her hand tighter, my heart aching for her. You don't have to compare yourself to anyone. We're on our own journey, and I want to support you. But I need you to trust me enough to be open about how you're feeling. Tears brimmed in her eyes as she looked up at me. I'm trying. I really am. I guess I thought if I kept it to myself, I could handle it without burdening you. Burdening me? I repeated, astonished. You could never be a burden. I care about you too much to let you go through anything alone. You need to know that. She nodded slowly, wiping her eyes. I know. It's just hard for me to open up. I've always been the one who hides my struggles. As we continued walking, I felt a wave of compassion wash over me. We'll figure this out together, I promise. But we have to keep communicating. I don't want us to build walls between us again. The rest of the evening felt lighter, the weight of our conversation hanging in the air like a promise. But even as we walked home hand in hand, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were still dancing around the core issue. The question of trust and loyalty lingered, an unresolved chord that threatened to unravel everything. Later that night, as we settled into bed, I felt the familiar unease creeping back in. "Julia," I said quietly, "I need you to be completely honest with me about that guy from the party." Her expression shifted, and I could see the tension rise. "I thought we moved past that." "I know, but it still weighs on my mind." "You said you had doubts that night." "I can't help but wonder if there was something more, something you're afraid to admit." Julia sighed, the tension in her shoulders evident. "It's not that simple. I didn't mean for it to escalate in my mind. I just let the atmosphere get to me." "Atmosphere?" I pressed gently. "You mean the party?" But it felt like there was more at stake. "If there was something there, I need to know." "I promise, nothing happened," she insisted, but I could hear the quiver in her voice. "We were just caught up in the moment, having fun, and it made me question things about us." "Why?" I asked, desperation creeping in. "What made you question us?" She looked away, biting her lip. "Sometimes I wonder if I can keep up with you. You're so driven, so focused on your goals." I felt like I was losing myself in that. And maybe in that moment, I wanted to feel something different, something exciting. The admission hit me hard, and I could see the guilt washing over her. "But you don't have to lose yourself for us to work. I want you to be you, the person I fell in love with." "I know that now," she said, her voice breaking. "But in that moment, I panicked." "Panicked?" I echoed, trying to process her words. "What were you panicking about?" Julia hesitated, and for a moment, I feared she might retreat again. "I was panicking about my future. I want to be successful and confident, but I don't feel that way right now. I feel lost, and it scared me. I thought maybe I needed something different, something thrilling." I sat up in bed, the realization dawning on me. "You're not lost, Julia. You're just in a phase of growth. We all go through that. But it doesn't mean you need to seek it elsewhere." She nodded, wiping tears from her cheeks. "I know. And I don't want to seek anything outside of us. I just need to figure out how to embrace who I am without losing you in the process." "I'm here for you," I said earnestly. "But we have to be a team. We need to tackle these feelings together. I can't be your anchor if you don't let me in." Her eyes met mine, filled with vulnerability. "I'll try. I promise I'll try to open up more, to share my struggles instead of hiding them." As we lay back down, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this was a turning point for us. But in the back of my mind, I still sensed an underlying tension, a thread of unresolved conflict that needed addressing. I knew that trust was a fragile thing, and the shadows of doubt still lingered. I just hoped we could face whatever came next together, without fear, without secrets. But part of me still wondered if there were more truths yet to be uncovered. And as we drifted off to sleep, I couldn't help but feel that the journey was far from over. Chapter 6, The Breaking Point. The next few days passed in a haze of uncertainty and cautious optimism. Julia and I were making an effort, but beneath the surface, the tension still simmered. I tried to be supportive, reminding her that she could lean on me, but there was a part of me that couldn't shake the feeling that more needed to be addressed. One evening, while we were cooking dinner together, I noticed that Julia had been unusually quiet. She stirred the pot of pasta, her brow furrowed as if she was lost in thought. I could feel the weight of her silence, and it sent a ripple of anxiety through me. "Jules," I said softly, trying to draw her out of her thoughts. "Is everything okay?" She turned to me, her expression unreadable. "Yeah, I'm fine," she said, but I could see the flicker of something in her eyes, a mixture of worry and hesitation. "Are you sure? You seem a bit off tonight," I pressed gently. If there's something on your mind, you can talk to me. She sighed, her shoulders slumping as she placed the wooden spoon down. I don't know. I guess I'm just feeling overwhelmed again. The pressure at work is building, and it's hard to shake off. Talk to me about it, I urged. What's been going on? It's just, everything feels like it's piling up. I'm trying to juggle so many things, and sometimes I feel like I'm failing at all of them, she admitted, her voice thick with emotion. You're not failing, I said firmly. You're human, and it's okay to feel overwhelmed. But you have to let me in. I can't help if you don't share what's going on. I know, she said, running a hand through her hair. It's just hard for me to articulate it. I don't want to seem like I'm constantly complaining or dragging you down. Jules, I want to be there for you, not just during the good times, I replied, my heart aching for her. It's okay to feel like you're struggling. Just please, don't hide it from me. She nodded, but I could see the wall still standing between us. I felt the tension mount, a tight coil of frustration and concern. Can I ask you something? I ventured, my voice steady but tinged with trepidation. Sure, she said, crossing her arms defensively. Do you think this pressure is part of what led you to that party and that guy? The need for a thrill, a distraction. Julia's eyes widened, and I could see her processing my words. I don't know, she said slowly. Maybe. It's not just about him, it's about how I felt in that moment. I let my insecurities get the best of me, and it scared me. Scared you how? I pressed, wanting to understand her deeper fears. Scared that I'm not enough for you, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. What if you find someone who's more successful, more put together? I don't want to hold you back. The admission felt like a punch to the gut. Julia, I'm with you because of who you are, not because of what you achieve. I love you for your heart, your passion, not just your career, I said, trying to reassure her. But if you're feeling this way, we need to tackle it head on. We can't let these insecurities dictate our relationship. She looked away, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. I know, but it's hard to see that sometimes. I wish I could just feel secure in us without all these doubts. As the evening wore on, the tension remained palpable. I could feel my frustration bubbling just beneath the surface, and I was torn between wanting to support her and needing her to confront her own feelings. That night, after we finished dinner, I sat on the couch with her, the silence stretching between us. I sensed that something was brewing, an unspoken conversation waiting to erupt. Jules, I need to say something, I finally said, my voice trembling with uncertainty. I think we need to address the elephant in the room. She looked up, concern etched on her face. What do you mean? About that guy from the party, I said, my heart racing. I can't shake the feeling that there's still something unresolved between us regarding him. I want to trust you, but I need more than just your word. Her expression faltered, and for a moment, I could see the walls she had built around herself beginning to crumble. What do you want me to say? She asked, her voice tinged with frustration. I don't know. Maybe you need to tell me exactly how you felt that night. Were you tempted? Did you want something more? I pressed, feeling the heat rising within me. Because if you did, it changes everything. I didn't want anything more, she exclaimed, tears spilling down her cheeks. I was just confused and scared. I made a mistake in how I handled it, but I didn't mean to hurt you. Then why can't you just be honest with me about what you felt? Why keep hiding? I asked, frustration spilling over. I can't fix this if you won't share what's really going on inside. Because I'm scared, she shouted, her voice cracking. I'm scared of how you'll react. I don't want to lose you because of my mistakes. The tension erupted, and suddenly the room felt charged with emotions: fear, anger, confusion. "You need to trust me," I said, my voice steady but urgent. "If we're going to make this work, I need to know the truth, all of it. No more secrets." Julia's eyes blazed with a mixture of hurt and defiance. "And what if I tell you the truth and it breaks us apart? What if that's what you really want?" The accusation stung, and I felt my heart drop. "It's not about that. I want to understand, to work through this together. But you're not giving me anything to work with." As we faced each other, the emotions swirled around us, and I realized how fragile everything felt. The fears that had haunted her were now creeping into our relationship, threatening to tear us apart. "I don't want to lose you, Jules," I said, my voice softer now, filled with desperation. "But if we can't be honest, then we're already lost." Silence filled the room, heavy and suffocating. Julia's shoulders shook as she fought against her tears, and in that moment, I saw the truth in her eyes. She was just as scared as I was scared of the unknown, scared of losing what we had fought so hard to build. "I don't want to lose you either," she finally whispered, her voice trembling. "But I don't know how to confront my own feelings. I'm scared of what it all means." "Then let's figure it out together," I pleaded, reaching out to cup her face in my hands. "Let's be honest with each other, no matter how painful it might be. I want to understand what you're feeling, every part of it." As she looked into my eyes, I felt a shift, a glimmer of hope that we could find our way back to each other, even if it meant facing our deepest fears. But I knew it would take courage from both of us to break down those walls and confront the truths that had lingered too long in the shadows. And as the weight of the moment settled around us, I hoped we could find the strength to face whatever lay ahead. But in my heart, I knew this was only the beginning of a much larger journey. Chapter 7, Facing the Truth. The following days felt like a slow unspooling of tension as Julia and I navigated the aftermath of our explosive conversation. We were both exhausted, but there was an underlying sense of urgency. We needed to confront the truth that had been lurking in the shadows for too long. One afternoon, as we sat in a quiet cafe, I watched her stir her coffee absent-mindedly. The sunlight streamed through the window, casting warm rays across her face, but I could still see the worry etched in her features. I wanted to reach out and reassure her, but I also knew we had to dive deeper into our discussion. "Jules, can we talk about what happened at the party?" I said gently, keeping my tone soft but firm. She looked up, her eyes clouded with uncertainty. "Do we have to?" "Yes," I insisted. "I can't move forward without understanding how you felt. It's important to me." After a long pause, she sighed, setting her cup down. "Okay, but promise me you won't react too harshly. I'm still trying to sort through everything." "I promise," I replied, my heart pounding. "Just be honest with me." Julia took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. "That night, when I was dancing and having fun, I felt liberated. But then, when I saw that guy, I let myself get carried away. It was like I was trying to escape my own feelings of inadequacy. I wanted to feel something, anything other than the pressure I was under." Her words hit me like a wave. "So you were looking for an escape?" "Not exactly," she said, her voice trembling. "I wasn't looking to cheat or betray you. I just wanted to feel alive for a moment. I was drowning in my own thoughts, and the attention felt like a distraction." I nodded slowly, trying to process what she was saying. "And when you realized what it could mean, it scared you?" "Yeah," she admitted, her eyes glistening. "I panicked. Instead of confronting how I felt, I let myself spiral. I didn't want to think about what that meant for us. Julia, I need you to understand that it's okay to feel lost sometimes," I said, reaching across the table to hold her hand. "But running away from those feelings won't make them disappear. We need to confront them together, Not just when it's easy. She squeezed my hand, tears spilling down her cheeks. I know that now. I just didn't want to burden you with my insecurities. You're not a burden, I said firmly. You're my partner. We're in this together, remember. I want to support you, but I can't do that if you don't let me in. As she nodded, a flicker of relief crossed her face. You're right. I need to trust you more. Let's talk about the guy, I said, my heart racing again. I need to know, was there ever any real attraction? Julia hesitated, her brow furrowed. In that moment, I felt flattered by the attention. But it was superficial. I realized afterward that what I truly want is right in front of me. Okay, I said, feeling a mix of relief and lingering doubt. But we need to make sure we don't let outside influences come between us again. You have to promise me that if you're feeling lost, you'll come to me first. I promise, she said, her voice steady. I'll do better. I'll be honest about my feelings, no matter how messy they are. We finished our coffee, and for the first time in days, I felt a weight lift. We had taken a crucial step forward, but I knew we still had a long way to go. There were still shadows of doubt lingering, and I needed to ensure we could weather any storms that might come our way. That night, as we lay in bed, I felt a sense of cautious optimism. Jules, I said softly, turning to face her. I'm really proud of how far we've come today. But there's still something weighing on my mind. What is it? She asked, concern flashing in her eyes. I think we need to talk about your self-doubt, I said carefully. You mentioned feeling inadequate, and I want to make sure you know that you're more than enough for me. She sighed, a mixture of sadness and understanding in her expression. I appreciate that, but it's hard to see it sometimes. I've always struggled with self-esteem, and it can feel overwhelming. I get that, I replied. But I want you to see what I see in you. You're talented, passionate, and you bring so much joy into my life. It's okay to struggle, but you can't let that define you. I'm trying, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't want to feel this way anymore. I want to be secure in myself and in our relationship. I pulled her closer, wrapping my arms around her. Then let's work on it together. I'm here for you, and I believe in you. As she nestled into my embrace, I could feel her tension start to ease. But as I closed my eyes, I still felt the echoes of doubt lingering in the back of my mind. Would we really be able to overcome these insecurities together? And would the specter of that night ever truly fade? The following weeks were filled with small victories and setbacks. We made an effort to communicate more openly, and I could see Julia trying to confront her feelings head-on. She sought help from a therapist, which I supported wholeheartedly. But even with progress, I could still sense that lingering fear both in her and in me. One weekend, we decided to attend a local music festival. It was a vibrant atmosphere, filled with laughter and joy, and I thought it might be a good way to reconnect. But as we danced under the stars, I noticed her drifting again, her smile faltering as her gaze wandered. Hey, I said gently, pulling her closer. What's going on in that beautiful head of yours? She sighed, her shoulders drooping. I don't know. I thought this would help me feel free, but I still feel that nagging doubt. About us? I asked, my heart sinking. Yeah, she admitted, biting her lip. I love being here with you, but I can't shake the feeling that I'm just not good enough. Jules, please don't do this, I said, frustration creeping in. We've talked about this. You are enough. I'm here with you, and I chose you for a reason. I know, she said, tears welling in her eyes. But sometimes I still feel like I'm just pretending to be okay. Then let's be okay together, I urged, desperation creeping into my voice. We can't let this doubt come between us again. As we stood there in the moonlight, I could see the weight of her insecurities bearing down on her. I wanted to protect her, but I also knew that ultimately, she had to confront her own fears. In that moment, I realized that we were at a crossroads. If we were going to move forward, we had to face the truth together, no matter how uncomfortable it might be. I wanted to believe we could overcome this, but I also felt the pressure building. Could our love withstand the trials that lay ahead? The answer felt uncertain, but deep down, I knew we had to try. And as we danced under the stars, I hoped that the love we shared would be enough to guide us through the darkness. But in my heart, I still felt the whispers of doubt lingering just out of reach.